Swiss-French architect Le Corbusier was said to be one of the most influential architects of the 20th century. He was born the year 1887 in Switzerland, the year the Eiffel Tower was built. Corb, that's what we call him in architecture speak, was also one of the pioneers of what is now called modern architecture. He had his idealism reflected in his iconic designs, such as the development of what was made known today as the 5 points of architecture. You can see how it was perfectly summed up and portrayed in his Villa Savoye in the 1920s. Coming to talk about his Jaoul house design that came around in the 1950s, it is a pair of brick houses differentiated by the name Les Cassas A and Les Cassas B, situated at the suburb of Paris. Based on the principle of modular, they were designed and built separately, sharing an empty lot of 1,000 square feet, which they would eventually join at the cellar they share. Better known as Maison Jaoul, it was Corb's first ever brutalist architectural work, the feature of strict element design and also repetitive geometric shape. So, what exactly is brutalism? Well, it's essentially a spontaneous movement in architecture which rejected every bit of feature in modernism, trading the design of clean, elegant 1920s work like this and this to rough cement work like this and this. This architectural order was pioneered and popularized by Corb himself during post-World War II with the accomplishment of Maison Jaoul. According to Corb, the roughly detailed building best portrayed, and was a matter of fact, inspired by the harsh environment and situation of World War, where people suffered from all sorts of hardship. Brutalist architecture stood out with its predominance of exposed concrete construction and ruggedly detailed of brickwork with concrete. As for the Jaoul house, Corb designed to have the exterior brick walls unplastered while the interior fully overlaid to prevent condensation. A part of implementing unplastered brick spine walls running through the house to increase the overall linearity, no centering was required because they had shallow concrete vaults projected along the ceiling. These vaults have their weight rested on a projection of beams that run across the interior until they meet the load-bearing brick panels, which will allow them to transfer the weight further on towards the ground. Well, it's also clear that the vaulting system was pretty much a key feature in the design, having the horizontality to remain as the dominant idea, with the main contrast between the rectilinear slab floors and the curvilinear roof. And for the fact that brutalist architecture happened during post-World War II, raw materials like concrete and brick became the choice in Corb's brutalist design of the Jaoul house, as they were cheap and matched the theme of that period of hardship. During the 1920s up to the 40s, Corb's design was focused on modernist building like this and this, which were dramatically mimicked over the decades. And so, the post-war building, the Jaoul house, was considered to be a dramatic contrast in Corb's architectural design timeline. Right from the appearance, there is an obvious difference where most of Corb's design before post-World War were polished and elegant, while Jaoul house had an unpainted, rustic brick surface. Unlike Villa Savoye applying reinforced concrete and plastered masonry units, material used to build the Jaoul house were mainly cement and roughed brickworks, as they were cheap and highlight the roughness of modern urban life. Besides, symbolic connotations, materials and forms reflecting Corb's infatuation towards the machine age could be seen at each level of Savoye, while in Jaoul house design, Corb had a roof garden and chose raw materials, as he wanted to return towards fresh interpretation of nature. The Jaoul house didn't carry much influence towards Corb's future designs, as brutalist architecture was mostly dead at the mid of 1980s. Even so, it brought one significant change in Corb's future project, with its most striking difference between pre- and post-World War work: the quality of light in the interior spaces. With more flexible fenestration, which means the opening in the walls of a structure, light is deployed with drama and subtlety so that the house expresses various moods, an element impossible to achieve with earlier architectural language.
you.